Say you had a really hard landing and you got a kink in your tube. Can you fix it? That's what I'm going to cover in this video.
Welcome to Advanced Construction Videos, where we show you how to tackle rocketry building techniques and more. On our website, we sell kits, motors, building supplies, and electronics. So come and learn, shop, build, and fly when you visit us at apogeerockets.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Van Milligan from Apogee Components. It is possible that you could get a kink in your tube from a hard landing. The kinks almost always happen right above the fins because this is the weak point. Because the fins are strong, they reinforce the tube right here, but right in front of the fins, you can get a kink. And I've gone ahead and created a kink right here, and we can try to fix that. On this particular rocket, I can feel right here, there's a centering ring from the engine mount tube. So there's one centering ring in the back, and then there's one in the front, and it's like about right here. And my kink is behind it. I want to give you a couple of different options for repairing a kink. There's two things you have to consider when you do this. One is the structural part. The tube, once you got a kink in it, is less strong than if it was whole. And then the second part is the cosmetic part. So you can fix the mechanical part, the physical part, but then you have to consider, do I want to fix the cosmetic, make it nice and smooth again like it was originally? On this first tube right here, since I have a ring right here, what I would probably try to do is, one of the methods is to put a strake from the outside of the tube. So this is a strake. It's just a piece of wood. And then you can see what I've done here is I've cut this strake of wood so that it nests right in front of the fin. So if I put one there, and one there, and then I've got some filler ones in the middle, and that will fix the structural part. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take an aluminum angle, and I'll draw a line so that I have it nice in line with the fin. I'll do one there. Okay, and then I can take, I'm going to use thick super glue right now, just because I'm in a hurry. And what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll put glue along this edge. Hopefully you can see this. Get my glasses so I can put it on straight, right? Got a little excess glue there. And then I'm going to use the super glue accelerator to harden it. Okay, so now that's one of them. I got a little gap right there. That's not good. For that, if you get a gap, then you can use the extra thick super glue. And the extra thick will fill that gap if that happens to you. And then you can, I usually use a plastic bag for this because the super glue won't stick to the plastic bag, but you can use a paper towel if you need to. You just run that along there and then kick it off with the accelerator, and that will fill that gap. Then we can do the next one. Yeah. Okay, so, and if I want more stiffness, I can glue like smaller ones in the middle. There it is. Oh, missing my. So I'm just eyeballing this right now. You know, I could glue one right there. Okay, so you get the point. The strakes, what they do is they give it a lot of stiffness, and they will repair the structural part of whatever kink that you have. So that's like my first method that I like when I would just want to get it done quick so I can go out and fly the rocket. And it gives the rocket a little extra texture to it that, you know, I think looks a little bit neater just because you have more fin area on there. You do have to worry about adding weight to the rear part of the rocket. So if your CP is like right here, you don't want to add too much weight behind it, but typically, you know, if your CP is like right in front of your fins, this probably will be fine. If the strakes are in front of the CP, that's even better because that moves your center of gravity forward, which makes the rocket more stable. And so you don't have to worry about adding nose weight. Only if whatever strakes that you add are behind the CP. But typically, it's going to kink in front of that because, like I said, the strong part is down here where the fins are. It's usually right in front of the fins where the kink is going to occur. So what happens if you get a kink like further up on the tube? Like, let's kink this one right here. Okay, so I got a kink right here. If it's further up, you might be able to stick a coupler on the inside of the tube. Now, you could try to slide the coupler in from the front of the tube, but this gets really tricky because, you know, if you can't get your hand all the way in to where the kink is, it's not going to work. So in that case, we're going to cut the tube right where the kink is, right in the middle, and then splice it back together with a coupler. So to do that, well, let's do that. Let me get rid of that. All right, I'm going to take a piece of paper. like this. And I need a straight edge, and I only need one straight edge. I didn't cut all the way. Okay, you can see one edge is straight, one edge is not. The straight edge I want to use as a cutting guide for my knife. So I'm going to take the paper. So here's my kink right there. And I'm going to put the paper around the tube. And this is the part where you need to line up that edge. And that's why I said you need one straight edge. I don't care about this back edge, but this front edge is important. Okay, so now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to use that as a guide to cutting the tube. Okay, so now, I don't know if you've noticed, but my cut wasn't perfect. And that's typical whenever you're cutting a tube in half. So what you'll do then in that case is you got to make that tube nice and straight again. So you're going to take some sandpaper, and I'm going to use an Apogee sanding tee. And then I'm going to flatten it out. So I'm rotating the tube with my fingers and at the same time using a circular motion to sand it. Okay, that's one side, and then here's the other side. Yeah, close enough. If you have a shock cord, this one does have a shock cord. It's already down inside, so keep that out of the way. Now we're going to test fit our coupler in here, and because of the kink right there, it's going to be a little bit stiff going in, but it will go in, and this side will go in like that. But because it's a little tighter because of the kink, because you know the paper has been forced downward, normally I like using wood glue putting in couplers, because that's the strongest, because the wood glue penetrates the paper because of the water. So it kind of gets like little fingers inside of all the little fibers inside the on the surface of the paper. And I want to clean this out a little bit, get the residue out. But because in this particular case, I'm going to use epoxy, because the epoxy doesn't grab so easily like the wood glue will. And so it gives me a better chance of making a nice clean joint. The downside is it's messy. So I'm going to use, this is 15-minute cure epoxy. I'm just going to mix it in a little cup. And this is equal parts of part A and part B. So I'm going to squeeze them out at the same time, and hopefully that looks good. I probably would have wanted a little bit more than that, but that's, I think you're going to get the point. Get a little stir stick over here. I'm going to stir this up. So I got 15 minutes of working time on this, so I don't have to be in a hurry. So mix it really good. Okay, so here's my coupler. I'm just going to put it on like it's peanut butter on a piece of bread. And then I want to put some on the inside of the tube as well. I think I might use my finger on this one. Since I got a gloved finger, I can spread it around easier. Ideally, you want to go as deep into the tube as you can, where the coupler will sit. All right, so now I can take my coupler and slide it in, and you'll see that there's gonna be excess epoxy oozing out. And I'll just take that and just start spreading it around on the other side. I didn't quite mix up enough epoxy for this, but I think you get the point. The one issue with epoxy is it doesn't penetrate the paper, so it's not quite as strong bonding tubes together. If you're making a fin fillet, definitely it's stronger. But for bonding couplers, I like to use wood glue in that particular case. Like I said, I didn't get enough epoxy, so if you're doing this, mix up enough epoxy to cover everything. Okay, and then we'll slide this back together. See, here's one side of the kink. Here's the other, and I'll probably just align those like they were originally. All right, as you can see, there's excess epoxy on the outside. All right, so for cleaning up epoxy, I like rubbing alcohol. So here I just have some regular isopropyl alcohol. Got some on the table. Okay, so now, once the epoxy cures, this will be structurally strong. And because it's thicker, I can actually sand that down and maybe put in a little bit of putty. We have the Tamiya putty, the white putty. You can put that in any valley in there, including that seam where they're joined together, and that will fill it, and then you can sand it smooth. And then you can get your surface as clean as it was originally. So that's two methods. And then there's a third method. I'm going to take this rocket. So now the worst case situation is when it breaks or when it kinks down here and you don't want to add the strakes like we did there. In this case, I'm going to put fiberglass on the outside of the rocket. It's kind of like putting a cast on a broken leg. So it won't be cosmetically as clean as fixing it from the inside like we did with the coupler, but it will be stronger because now all the strength is taken up by the fiberglass. So let's kink it. I hate kinking rockets, but that's what happens. So this one, I'm going to kink. I can feel that centering, the forward centering ring right there. So typically it's going to kink right in front of that. So I'm just going to kink it right there, like that. So you can see my kink. Okay, so now my tube is definitely not as strong as it was earlier. So like making a fiberglass cast, I'm going to start with a sheet of fiberglass cloth. This you can get at a hardware store. They typically sell fiberglass cloth. And I want to, I'm going to cut it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how many layers. The more layers you put around, obviously, the stronger it's going to be. All right. Yeah, if all this fraying on the edges, that's the downside of fiberglass, is it's not as nice. You could also use carbon fiber, and that will be stronger and lighter than glass, but it's a little bit more expensive and it's a little harder to find. Still got, I got some excess fibers. This is probably going to go around 1.5 times, but you'll get the point. I'm just trying to make it a nice clean edge, get rid of some of that fringe on the edge, but you can never get rid of it all. One of the tricks that I use is you can spray the fiberglass cloth. I usually use like fluorescent paint, and you just put a light coat on, and that will stiffen up the fibers so that they're not spreading out so much and getting a lot of fringe on them. But it will weaken the cloth a little bit, because when you put in the epoxy doesn't saturate the glass as much. These are like little bundles of glass fibers. So you should, if you're cutting it up like really fine and you got a lot of little fibers on your table, you should actually be wearing a particle mask, because you don't want to be breathing in, because that's glass. You don't want glass in your lungs. So to put this on, I'm going to mix up some more epoxy, and I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back and we'll put it on.